Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to play with some einkorn flour. So this here is the Kepper kitchen where we don't cook things, we just throw things together. So when you follow along with me here, I'm just going to be doing some things and I'll be giving you kind of an idea of what I think it is as far as measurements, because I don't measure things. So if you want to make your own recipe, by gosh, have at it. I'll kind of give you what I think it is. And I've been playing with it a little bit this morning. Just trying to figure out how to get the perfect naan bread from einkorn. Just to preface a little bit about einkorn, it is an extremely, how do I say this, difficult flour to work with if you're used to working with regular flour. Einkorn is not today's flour. Just let me put that out there right now. You're going to be working with einkorn if you wanted to experiment with it. It's going to be a little tough in the get-go. Einkorn works best if you have a sourdough starter that you start with your einkorn. Now there's some videos out there, some really good videos on YouTube that you can go through and figure out the steps that you need to go through to make you some einkorn starter, sourdough starter. And I've done a few of them and it works really good. But sometimes I don't always have the time to work with it, feed it, all them kind of things that you need to do with it. Name it. Some people name it. I don't name it. But those are some different things that you can work with if you're interested in doing einkorn. Today we're going to make some naan. And I've made a few little things this morning with it. And I think I've come up with something that works well for me. I like naan. I try and stay away from today's breads that you get, processed breads at the store. You go down there and get those breads because they just don't, they don't do me well. Einkorn, I have found that I can tolerate einkorn bread and pastries or whatever I made it. I've made some cookies, I've made bread, and it doesn't seem to spike my sugar like regular bread does. Now the carb content in einkorn is a little rich, but it's a different molecular, say that right, carb that you're ingesting. Einkorn bread is way easier to digest than today's bread. If you do all the research on it, you're going to find out, and I don't know all the particulars in this, but chromosomes that are in today's breads are extremely high. You're like running, I don't know, the flours, they say anywhere from 28 to 42 chromosomes in the wheat that we produce today in America and in other countries. Einkorn only has 14. And so there's a protein binder in there that works on your digestion. Einkorn's chromosomes in there are easier to digest than the other 28 and 42 that you ingest with regular flour. Like I say, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, but there is a lot of information out there about einkorn, and you can read it and understand it, and some of it I understand, some of it I don't. But what I do know is that when I make things out of einkorn and I eat them, it does not mess me up. I don't get heartburn, I don't get a bloated stomach, I'm good to go. So today, we're going to make some naan. And in my trials and my errors of trying to do all this stuff, I just was trying to do the best I could to make my naan. I got on the internet and went through and found all these recipes. And like I say, it's not the easiest flour to work with. So you gotta figure out how they did it, when they did it. So I just figured out, well, if I was an ancient man, what is it that I would need to make me some naan? So I kind of just figured out that they would have their flour, their einkorn flour, and you need some kind of a lard. I've done it with ghee, and it came out okay. One thing that I have found that worked best for what I'm trying to do this morning was beef tallow. I had made me some beef tallow the other night, and I had some of it still left over. So we're going to put a little bit of that in here, and salt. They would have had salt way back then, and some water. So we just need a little bit of a liquid. So here's how we're going to do this. Now again, my measurements, I don't measure. I just take a spoonful like this. Now what I did a little while ago was I took this spoonful and I put it in a measuring cup, and it comes out to about 1/3 of a cup. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to add some salt, and I like a little bit of salt in mine. You can put as much salt as you want to, so I'm probably thinking this is probably not even half a teaspoon of salt, because I don't have a whole lot of flour. And the reason that I'm making a small batch is because if you want to enjoy einkorn, I would suggest that you get you some flour, some einkorn flour, and make small batches of things, because it's kind of pricey. It's a little expensive. But if you take the time to learn to work with it, like I've done, it opens up a whole new world, and it will help you not to get so frustrated with einkorn. It took me a few tries. Well, I say a few tries. It took me probably 10, 12 tries making bread. It's really tough to work with until I got it figured out. So I probably spent, goodness gracious, more money than I want to say on making loaves of bread that didn't come out just right. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Just make you some small batches of things with the einkorn. Learn how it works. One thing about einkorn flour, go ahead and get my beef tallow in here. One thing that you'll learn really quick with einkorn is that einkorn flour takes a while to absorb any kind of liquids that you're going to put in there, you're going to use. It takes a while for einkorn to absorb. And if you rush it, you're going to end up with like about 10, 12 redos, like I did. So what I do with my flour, as you can see, I put the beef tallow in here, and I'm just using my fingers and my hands. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of mix this up in here really good. Just get it mixed up. And you can see it's getting kind of crumbly. And that's what I want to do. I just want to get it in there. I want to get it crumbly. One of the little testers that I've learned to do with einkorn is when I get it to where I think it's just right, you just keep mixing it. When I think I get it to where I got it all the way where I need to do it, I'll just do the fist test. Now my fist test is I just take a little bit of it, put it in my fist, and I squeeze it. And if it holds together, which that one's not, then it's right. And if it doesn't, just keep mixing it. Now I don't know if I said, but that was probably about a little less than a tablespoon of beef tallow. I used too much on my last one, but that's okay. Okay, so I think I've got it now. So we're gonna. Okay, it's getting better. So the more that you can put it together, and the more that it holds together. Yeah, that's what you want to see right there. So when it's coming together, that's what that's when I know that it's good. So now, once I get this, yeah, it's starting to stick a little better. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, I had a quick deal with my camera there. Heard the battery go off. So I've got my hot water. I'm going to heat it up just a hair more. Been in there for a little bit. Turn it on for 30 seconds. I have found that a lot of things that I've watched on YouTube, you know, they use regular water, the lukewarm, cold. I found that hot water actually works better. I don't know what it does to the flour or the lard or anything like that, but I have found, for me, when I'm working with it, it seems to do better with what I'm trying to do with my flour. So that was 30 seconds. That's pretty hot. So another trick that I have learned and I have found, so during my research and my studies about ancients and what they used and how they used it to cook bread and naan, flatbread was their typical diet, is what they used. They didn't all the time make a big loaf of bread. You have to remember, way back when, people, they were very efficient with what they had. And so you wouldn't bake something that you're not going to eat. They would bake breads, and they would bake the breads that had the hard shell covering on them. They would bake them, and those were the breads, kind of like a French bread that we have today, that's kind of hard, crusty. You know, you take it, break it, and peel it apart. That was their typical bread because it lasted longer. But to make a bread, and just to make a bread just to feed your family, if it was going to feed your family, then you would make that bread and you would eat it that day. That was typical. Unless you were going on a journey, then maybe you would make 2 or 3 loaves of bread, because you don't want to have to sit up and sourdough your flour to get it to start fermenting to make your flours. Now, they carried a lot of that with them, but again, you didn't want to use it unless you were going to actually eat it. So the utensils that they had crude pots and pans, and you know, I have a cast iron skillet, and that's what I like to cook with. They would have had something similar to this. It would probably been just a flat pan with a handle, nothing fancy. They would have had bowls that they would have worked with. And so I did some research, and so typically when they were finished with their eating and their cooking and all those kind of things, depending on where they were, they didn't have any water. And the water they had, they weren't going to waste on cleaning their pots and pans. So they had scrapers, kind of like this right here, a scraper or stirrer, and this is what they use. And you can do, you know, I've watched documentaries of other countries that still use scrapers to clean their pots and pans with because of their water shortages. They don't want to use water. They'll just take a scraper and do it. And they use them things to mix with. So that's what we're going to do. So working with einkorn, like I said before, it absorbs all of the liquids really slow. So we're going to add some of this hot water in here, and we're going to mix it slow because we don't want to add too much water too quick. You want to get it in there, and you just want to kind of bind it. Just use it till it starts coming together. And like I say, hot water, I wouldn't say boiling water, I would say hot water, I have found works very well. Now you can see I'm getting it, right now it's already coming together. The trick with einkorn is not to let it be too dry, but you don't want it to be overly wet. because it's naturally wet when you're first starting to add your liquids and everything to it. So I'm just going to put just a little bit more in here. And that's one thing you'll have to figure out on your own, is how it works, how much water you need, because I don't know. I just mix until it starts coming together and I can tell when it gets there. Now see, this is still a little bit dry for me. So I'm just going to add just a tad more water because I want this to be sticky. I want it to be a sticky dough. There we go. Now we've got it. Yeah. You can see I'll work with this, and it's kind of a tacky, sticky little mess here. And believe it or not, this is actually how you want it to be. Because what we're going to do here, just kind of work it, and you can work it as long as you want to, but einkorn, the more you work it, the more stickier it'll get. So what I usually do, and most recipes and the YouTube channels will tell you, let it rest. And I will tell you that is correct. Let this rest for at least 10 minutes. And let all of this water and all of that tallow just get absorbed into that. Now it's going to be looking like a sticky ball of tacky. And that's what we want right there. Because in a minute, or in 10 minutes, I'm going to show you something very remarkable. If I was to try and pick this up with my hands, it'd be a mess. I encourage you, this is my scraper that I use, like I said, on my skillets. I don't put soap in my skillets when I clean them, I just scrape. Just like the old folks do. Okay, so we're going to let this rest for 10 minutes, and we'll be right back. So it's been 10 minutes. We've been letting this rest here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take me a little bit of flour, put it out on my counter here, and I'm going to roll this thing some more. Now one of the things that has changed since I let this thing rest is that I can now pick this thing up. And it's not as tacky. It has some tack to it, but not like it did before. So I'm going to put it right here. And I just want to knead this up a little bit. And like I say, when you're doing this, don't make a big batch. Learn how this stuff works. Learn how it's going to react to you working it and all those things, because it's not a flour or a wheat like you're used to. And when you start working with it, there's going to be some frustration levels. Ask me how I know. So we'll just keep patting this around. And you can, there's so many things out there. Some people say don't knead it a whole lot. Some people say knead it and fold it. And just whoever you watch, whenever you watch, they're going to be the ones that dictate, because that's the way that they've learned to do it, really, is what it is. So me, I just take mine and I just knead it for just about a minute. And then I just want to get it ready to roll out. I don't want to get it too thick. I don't want to get it too thin. So I work at mine at about a little less than 1/4 of an inch. Now I've got my pan here. I've already got it hot. The other thing too you're going to discover with einkorn dough is that it is really soft. It's a really soft dough. So that's another thing that you'll be learning to work with, is because when you pick it up and you start working with it, it will separate really easy, because it's just a really soft dough. Alright, got avocado oil, just a spray is what I use in my pans. I don't over grease them when I'm fixing to put something in there. I just get it hot. I've got it on a medium heat. Just going to lay it in there. And if you get it in there and it ain't perfect, just mess with it a little bit until you get it perfect, and it'll be all right. So we're going to let this cook in there. That's the other thing too with einkorn flours. It's not going to do like regular flour when you stick it in there. Depending on what you use, if you're going to use ghee, you can use butter. I've used some tallow, beef fat. You're going to see discolorations in it when it begins to cook through. I don't know if you can see it from that far off, but it's got some paleness to it, and then it looks like it's just kind of like some oily stuff that's coming through. Don't mind that. It's what I've learned with the way I do mine, is that it's going to look like it's going to be doughy because of the way it's cooking through, but it's just the way einkorn does. I don't know what to tell you. You got to learn it yourself. But enjoy, I hope, this in video, and just because it is extremely difficult to figure this stuff out the very first time, because unless you do it exactly like they did it on the video, you're going to come out struggling a little bit. And I want this video to go out there to everybody who's wanting to learn how to use einkorn as a starter video, so that you don't get frustrated. Just use a little bit, you know, and you can get your ratios down, make your own recipes how you want to do it. Just learn einkorn. It's a great flour to work with. And that way you're not trying to make the perfect batch the very first time, because for me it didn't happen. And I can say I'm a pretty good cook sometimes, and I can figure some stuff out. But it did take me a while to figure out this flour. It's an animal on its own. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Yep, this is just going to take a couple of minutes here. I don't cook mine real quick because it will burn the outside real quick. You'll get some burn spots on it. I have made it with baking powder. And you just used a little bit of baking powder. The reason I didn't do it today, because I just wanted for this to be a test run for people who are wanting to discover and learn einkorn. This is the easiest way to do it. Figured out how they did it way back when. I mean, people survived on this stuff for thousands of years. They figured it out. They didn't have what we have. Figured we could do it too. But in another recipe, maybe another time, you can put baking powder. You can actually put baking soda and baking powder in there. I've done it several times. The problem with getting that ratio down is because einkorn flour has a really subtle, nutty taste. But if you overpower it just a little bit with something else, you taste that something else. So you got to be really careful when you use baking powder and baking soda. Some recipes I've seen called for both of them, and for apple cider vinegar. And those ingredients are kind of powerful if you get too much of it. So you just got to work with it and figure it out. Oh yeah, we're ready. Okay, so there you have it. It's a little bit too thick to be a tortilla. It's a little bit too thin to be naan and flatbread, but hey, we're learning how to do this. Now I'll let this cool off for just a little bit, and you can see it's pliable. It's hot. But you can see the discoloration here. It's nothing. Looks like it didn't get cooked all the way, but I assure you it did get cooked all the way. You let that cover. Now, I have right here just happen to have some good old grass-fed butter. I'm just gonna load it up. Oh yeah. Looky there. Take this off here. Oh yeah, look. Just peels apart. Ooh, it's hot. That, my friend, is good stuff. You can't get a better tasting naan bread than this right here. So there you have it, folks. Einkorn, naan, tortilla, flatbread, however, whatever you want to call it. It's not that difficult to make if you're just doing trial and error. You're not going to get frustrated. You're not going to fail at anything. You're going to learn. And that's what we've done today. It's just we've learned a little bit of how this stuff works, how it works together. Einkorn absorbs slowly. It cooks out different. You gotta let it rest. You gotta let your doughs rest. When you're adding your liquids to whatever you're going to make with Einkorn, don't worry about mixing it all up all together, getting all mixed up and all combined, because it's not going to happen. You'll work yourself to death. Just get it to where it's mixed up really good. Let it rest. The flour will begin to absorb, and then when you take it back out, as you seen a minute ago, it's going to be easier for you to work with. The tackiness of the dough is going to be your cue that you've got it at the right spot. If it's too dry, you're going to have a little ball that you're working with. And if you work it too dry, too quick, and you end up with that ball, it's really difficult to get it to undo to get you some more liquid in there. Because then you're going to over liquefy it, and then you're working it again, and then you're back to square one, and then you do like me, you put it in the trash and start all over again. But today, we made us some naan, real simple, real easy. You figure out your ratios, you figure out your flavors. This is your recipe, you make it how you want. So hey, thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped you learn a little bit about Einkorn, the way it works. And just keep it simple when you're working with Einkorn. Like I say, it's a new thing coming out. It's a trend that everybody's going to, these ancient grains, because they haven't been hybridized. So it's one of them things that you can really research, find out a lot about it, and I encourage you to do so. Today I hope you learned how to begin with Einkorn. Just make you some simple little flatbreads with it. There are so many recipes out there of how to do it. Again, it's a great bread or a great flour to start with the sourdough. You can get you a sourdough starter, work with that. Plenty of information out there to discover on that one. Like I say, I don't have one. I have done it, but it takes a lot of attention. But if you have the time, it's really easy to do. The best breads you can get are sourdough breads because it's fermented, the flour, and it's way easier on your guts to digest. So I encourage you to do so. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it takes away a frustration for you. Just know that it's coming. If you're going to start using Einkorn flour, there's some frustrations to using it, but the reward of learning what you can make with Einkorn flour once you get the hang of it is phenomenal. You'll enjoy it. Thanks again for watching, and just remember, every choice you make today creates the lifestyle you live tomorrow. Always remember that. Make your good choices today.